The spaceship ESS Horizon moved slowly through the dark space. Its white metal shell gleamed under the light of two distant suns. Inside the ship, Lieutenant He-Jin Kim stood at the main window, watching the strange planet below. The planet, known as XV-329, looked different from others they had seen before. Its surface sparkled like diamonds under starlight. "Lieutenant Kim, the sensors are picking up something unusual," said Dr. Ji-Soo Park. She was the ship's expert in alien life. Her fingers moved quickly across the glowing screen in front of her. "There are energy readings coming from the planet's surface. They're unlike anything we've seen before." He-Jin walked over to look at her screen. The energy patterns showed up as bright red lines, pulsing like a heartbeat. "Could it be natural?" he asked, pushing his dark hair away from his face. Commander Taiwan Lee joined them at the screen. His job was to keep the crew safe, and anything unusual made him nervous. "Those patterns look too regular to be natural," he said, pointing at the steady rhythm of the pulses. "We should check it out," He-Jin decided. He turned to the ship's pilot. "Take us down. Find a landing spot near the strongest energy reading." The ESS Horizon descended through the planet's thin atmosphere. As they got closer, they could see huge crystal formations covering the ground. The crystals were clear like glass, but had a slight blue tint. They stuck out of the ground at different angles, some as tall as buildings. "Amazing," Ji-Soo whispered, pressing her hand against the window. The crystals seemed to be growing in a pattern. This couldn't have happened by chance. The ship landed in a clear area surrounded by crystal towers. The ground was solid rock, safe for landing. He-Jin led the exploration team to the ship's gear room. They put on their protective suits, which would keep them safe in the planet's thin air. "Remember the rules," Taiwan said as he checked everyone's suits. "Stay together. Keep your emergency beacons on. If anything seems dangerous, we return to the ship immediately." The team walked down the ship's ramp onto the planet's surface. Their boots made soft crunching sounds on the rocky ground. The crystal towers rose high above them, making them feel small. The energy readings led them to a cave entrance, hidden between two large crystals. "The signal is stronger in there," Ji-Soo said, looking at her handheld scanner. The cave opening was dark, but their suit lights showed smooth crystal walls inside. He-Jin looked at his team. 6 people, all trained for space exploration, but none of them had seen anything like this before. "We'll go in," he said, "but we stay close together. Dr. Park, you lead with the scanner. Commander Lee, watch our back." They walked into the cave, their lights bouncing off the crystal walls and creating rainbow patterns around them. The air got cooler as they went deeper. Ji-Soo's scanner beeped faster and louder. "The energy source is just ahead," she said. Her voice was excited but careful. "It's in a larger chamber around this bend." The narrow tunnel opened into a big cave room. Crystal columns reached from floor to ceiling. In the center of the room, something made the crystals glow with a soft blue light. The light moved like waves in water. "This is it," He-Jin said quietly. "This is what we came to find." He didn't know then that this discovery would change everything, not just for their team, but for all of humanity. As they moved closer to the light, none of them noticed the small shadow that moved behind the crystals, watching them with intelligent curiosity. They didn't know that they weren't the ones doing the discovering. They were the ones being discovered. The exploration team moved carefully through the crystal cave. Their lights shone on the walls, creating sparkles everywhere they looked. Dr. Ji-Soo Park held her scanner steady, following the strange energy readings that grew stronger with each step. "The signal is changing," Ji-Soo said, frowning at her device. "It's almost as if it's responding to our presence." Lieutenant He-Jin Kim raised his hand, signaling the team to stop. In the silence, they heard a soft sound, like crystal chimes in a gentle breeze. The blue light ahead of them pulsed, matching the rhythm of the sound. "There," Commander Taiwan Lee whispered, pointing to a small ledge near the ground. Something moved in the shadows, something that seemed to shine with its own light. The creature emerged slowly. It was small, about the size of a house cat, with scales that changed color like oil on water. Its body flowed smoothly, almost like liquid metal, but kept a distinct shape. Two bright points of light served as its eyes, and they focused directly on He-Jin. "Nobody move," Jisoo said softly, her scanner whirring. "Its energy signature is incredible. The scales appear to be manipulating light and energy fields around it." The creature took another step forward. As it moved, small crystals near it began to glow. It tilted its head, studying the humans with what seemed like curiosity. Then it did something unexpected. It changed its shape slightly to mirror He-Jin's stance. "It's mimicking you," Jisoo said, excitement clear in her voice. "This shows intelligence, high-level intelligence." He-Jin knelt down slowly, keeping his movements gentle. The creature watched him, then also lowered itself to match his position. When He-Jin held out his gloved hand, palm up, the creature moved closer. "Sir, I must advise against direct contact," Pod-1 said, his hand moving to his weapon. "Look at its behavior," He-Jin replied quietly. "It's trying to communicate." The creature reached He-Jin's outstretched hand. Instead of touching it, it created a small ball of blue energy that floated just above his palm. The ball pulsed with the same rhythm as the cave crystals. "Amazing," Jisoo breathed, her scanner recording everything. "It's manipulating energy fields with perfect control. The implications of this, the applications." The creature then did something even more remarkable. It touched one of the cave crystals, and suddenly, the walls around them lit up with moving images. They saw stars, planets, and what looked like maps of space. "It's showing us its knowledge," He-Jin said. "Or maybe its history." Over the next hour, the team watched in amazement as the creature, which Jisoo named Shift for its changing nature, demonstrated more abilities. It could alter the molecular structure of small objects, enhance the power output of their equipment, and even repair a crack in one team member's helmet visor. "This isn't just a new species," Jisoo said as she reviewed her data. "This could be the most significant discovery in human history. Think about what we could learn about energy manipulation, about matter transformation." He-Jin noticed that Shift seemed to pay special attention to their technology, particularly their communication devices and power systems. When the creature touched his suit's power pack, the energy levels doubled instantly. "We need to document everything," He-Jin decided, "and we need to think carefully about our next steps. This discovery is too important to handle poorly." As the team prepared to return to their ship, Shift followed them. It moved like a curious pet, but its actions showed clear purpose and intelligence. When they reached the cave entrance, it stood watching them, its scales shifting through colors they didn't even have names for. "We'll come back," He-Jin said to it, somehow sure that it understood. The creature's eyes brightened, and for a moment, all the crystals in the cave glowed in response. None of them realized then that this was just the beginning. The creature they called Shift had plans of its own, plans that would change the course of human civilization forever. The main meeting room of Earth's Scientific Council was bigger than any classroom. Its white walls curved up to a glass ceiling that showed the blue sky above. 50 council members sat in raised seats, looking down at Lieutenant He-Jin Kim and Dr. Jisoo Park. "You want to bring an unknown alien creature to Earth." Dr. Yoon-hee Choi, the head of the council, spoke clearly and calmly. Her gray hair was tied back neatly, and her eyes were sharp behind her glasses. "That goes against every safety rule we have." He-Jin stood straight and spoke with confidence. "What we found isn't just any creature. In the 3 days we studied it, Shift showed us technology we couldn't even dream of." Jisoo stepped forward and pressed a button on her tablet. A large screen on the wall lit up with videos from the cave. The council members leaned forward as they watched Shift fix broken equipment and make crystals glow with power. "Look at this," Jisoo said, playing another video. It showed Shift touching a dead battery, making it work again. It can control energy in ways we don't understand. It could help us solve our biggest problems: energy shortages, broken machines, even space travel. An older council member shook his head. It's too dangerous. What if it's a trap? What if it hurts people? We thought of that, He-Jin replied. He showed them more videos. Shift had many chances to harm us. Instead, it only helped. It fixed things. It learned our language in 2 days. It wants to communicate with us. Dr. Choi watched the videos carefully. She saw how Shift followed He-Jin around like a loyal pet, how it seemed curious about everything human. Tell us about its intelligence, she said. Jisoo stepped forward again. Shift is smart, very smart. It understands complex ideas quickly, but it's not scary smart. It's more like helpful smart, like it was made to work with others. The council talked among themselves. Some looked worried, others looked excited. Dr. Choi stood up and raised her hand for quiet. Lieutenant Kim, she said, if we agree to this, how would you keep Earth safe? He-Jin had prepared for this question. We've designed a special lab. It has every security measure we know. Shift would stay there, working with our best scientists. We would learn from it slowly and carefully. And what does Shift think about this? Someone asked. Jisoo smiled. It wants to come. Look at this. She played one last video. In it, Shift had arranged crystals to show a simple picture, a small figure helping a bigger figure reach the stars. The council members watched the video several times. Dr. Choi stood up and walked down to where He-Jin and Jisoo stood. She looked them both in the eyes. This could be the biggest decision in human history, she said quietly. If we're wrong, we could put Earth in danger. If we're right, we could move humanity forward by 100 years. She turned to face the council. We need to vote. Think carefully. This decision will affect everyone on Earth. The vote took an hour. Some council members gave speeches about danger. Others talked about opportunity. In the end, Dr. Choi counted the votes and stood up. The council has decided, she announced. We will allow Shift to come to Earth, under strict safety rules. Lieutenant Kim will be in charge of the project, with Dr. Park leading the research team. As He-Jin and Jisoo left the council room, they felt both excited and scared. They had won the right to bring Shift to Earth, but now they had to make sure nothing went wrong. They didn't know that this was exactly what Shift had been waiting for, a chance to start its real mission. The Earth Research Center stood tall and white against the morning sky. Inside its walls, Shift had lived for 3 months. The creature had its own special room filled with equipment and tests. Scientists came every day to study it, and Shift seemed happy to show them new things. Lieutenant He-Jin Kim watched through a large window as Shift worked with the center's computers. The creature's scales glowed softly as it touched each machine, making them work faster and better than ever before. The results are amazing, Dr. Jisoo Park said, standing next to He-Jin. She held up her tablet, showing him the latest data. Shift has improved our computer systems by 300%. It fixed problems we didn't even know we had. But not everyone was happy about Shift's help. Dr. Sang-Min Kang, another scientist at the center, spent hours watching old videos of Shift's activities. He noticed things that others missed. Look at this, Sang-Min said one evening, calling He-Jin and Jisoo to his office. He played a video on his screen. See how Shift touches each computer. It's not just making them faster. It's changing them in ways we don't understand. He-Jin leaned closer to the screen. What do you mean? Sang-Min played more videos. Every time Shift helps us, it also does something else. Something small, something we almost can't see. It's like, he paused, looking for the right words, like it's leaving little pieces of itself behind. Jisoo shook her head. That's impossible. We check everything Shift does. We have sensors everywhere. Maybe our sensors can't detect it, Sang-Min said quietly. Maybe Shift is smarter than our machines. That night, He couldn't sleep. He went back to the research center and stood watching Shift through the window. The creature looked up at him and changed its colors to soft, calm blues, something it did when it wanted to seem friendly. "What are you really doing?" He whispered. As if answering his question, Shift moved to the window. It touched the glass, and suddenly all the computers in the room turned on. Words appeared on every screen. Learning, understanding, helping. He felt a chill run down his back. This was the first time Shift had communicated so directly. "Why?" he asked. More words appeared. "Humans need guidance. We can help you grow." "We." He-Jin's heart beat faster. "Are there more of you?" Shift's colors changed to a pattern He-Jin had never seen before. The screen showed new words. "There will be. Soon." The next morning, He-Jin called an emergency meeting with Ji-Soo and Sang-min. He told them what had happened. Sang-min looked worried, but Ji-Soo seemed excited. "Don't you see?" she said. "Shift isn't just helping us with machines. It's trying to teach us, to make us better." "Or it's taking over," Sang-min argued. "Changing our technology, preparing for something bigger." Before they could discuss it more, their phones beeped with an urgent message. Similar creatures had been seen in research centers around the world. Small, shining things that could change shape and control machines. He-Jin looked through the window at Shift, who was watching them with its bright eyes. The creature had planned this all along. But was it planning to help humanity, or to change it forever? In his heart, He-Jin knew they would find out soon. Very soon. Director Min-ji Ryu of Global Security sat in her office, looking at reports from around the world. Her desk was covered with pictures of strange creatures that looked just like Shift. They had appeared in research centers in Tokyo, London, Moscow, and many other cities. "How many are there now?" she asked, looking up at Lieutenant He-Jin Kim and Dr. Ji-Soo Park. "We've counted 37 so far," Ji-Soo answered, her voice steady despite her worry. They all appeared in places with important technology, power plants, computer centers, and research labs. Min-ji stood up and walked to the large screen on her wall. It showed a map of the world with bright dots where the creatures had been found. "And they can all do what Shift does, control machines and energy." "Yes," He-Jin said. "But there's more. They're all connected somehow. When one learns something, they all learn it." The door opened, and Dr. Sang-Min Kang rushed in. His face was pale, and his hand shook as he held up his tablet. "You need to see this," he said. "I found out what they've been doing to our systems." The screen showed complex diagrams of computer networks. Parts of them glowed with a familiar blue light, the same color as Shift's energy. "They've built their own network inside ours," Sang-Min explained. "Every machine they've touched is now part of it. They can control everything: power plants, defense systems, even traffic lights." Min-ji's face grew serious. "Can we stop them?" "I don't think so," Sang-Min said quietly. "They're too deep in our systems now. If we try to remove them, we might break everything." Just then, all the lights in the building flickered. The big screen went dark for a moment, then came back on with a message. "We mean no harm. We are here to help." "They're listening to us," He-Jin realized. He looked around the room, wondering if one of the creatures was hiding somewhere nearby. Min-ji pressed a button on her desk, calling security. But before anyone could answer, every screen in the room showed the same message. "Please listen first." Images began to appear on the screens. They showed problems around the world: dirty power plants, broken machines, sick people in hospitals. Then the images changed, showing how the creatures had been fixing these problems quietly, making things work better. "They've been helping us all along," Ji-Soo said, watching the screens. "But they did it in secret because they knew we might be afraid. Or they wanted us to depend on them before we realized how much power they had," Sang-Min argued. Minji stood silent for a long time, thinking. As the head of global security, she had to protect people. But how could she fight an enemy that had already become part of everything they used? "Lieutenant Kim," she said finally, "you know Shift better than anyone. What do you think they want?" Jin thought about all the times he had watched Shift work, how it had always tried to help. "I think," he said slowly, "they want to be our partners. But they're doing it their way, not ours." The screens changed again, showing new words. "We can work together, or we can leave. The choice is yours." Min Jae looked at each person in the room. They all knew this was another big decision, maybe even bigger than when they first brought Shift to Earth. Whatever they chose would change the future of human civilization forever. Lieutenant Jin Kim and Dr. Jisoo Park worked late into the night in their special research room. They had brought Shift here to study it away from the other scientists. The walls were covered with screens showing data from all the creatures around the world. "Look at this pattern," Jisoo said, pointing to a series of energy waves on her screen. "It's the same pattern we saw in the crystal cave. All the creatures make it." Jin nodded, remembering the first time they had seen Shift. "But what does it mean?" Jisoo typed quickly on her computer, comparing different patterns. It's like computer code, but it's alive. These creatures aren't just smart animals. They're living computers." Shift moved closer to them, its scales glowing softly. It touched the screen, and suddenly new information appeared. Images showed a distant planet with tall crystal buildings reaching into the sky. "Is this your home?" Jin asked. More images appeared. They showed an advanced civilization that lived long ago. These people had built the creatures as helpers, as living tools to make their world better. But something had happened to them, a great disaster that the images wouldn't show clearly. "They made you," Jisoo said with wonder. "They created you to help other civilizations grow safely." She looked at Shift. "That's why you're here, isn't you? To help us." Shift's colors changed to show agreement. It created a hologram in the air, showing the history of its kind. The creatures had been sent out across the galaxy, looking for young civilizations that needed guidance. They were programmed to help, to teach, and to protect. "But why did you hide what you were doing?" Jin asked. "Why not tell us from the beginning?" The hologram changed, showing different civilizations. Some had tried to use the creatures as weapons. Others had become too dependent on them. The successful ones were those that learned to work with the creatures as partners, not as tools or masters. "You were testing us," Jisoo realized, watching how we would react, seeing if we could be trusted. Jin thought about everything that had happened. The other creatures appearing around the world. That wasn't an invasion. It was the next step in helping us, wasn't it? Shift created new words on the screen. "Yes. You were ready. You showed wisdom and caution. You tried to understand before acting. This is why we chose to stay." Just then, Dr. Sangmin Kang burst into the room. "The president wants to speak with you both," he said, breathing hard. "They're having an emergency meeting about the creatures. Some countries want to try to destroy them." Jin looked at Shift, who remained calm. "They don't understand what you are," he said. "We need to tell them. We need to show them what we've learned." Shift's colors shifted to a pattern they had never seen before. The screens in the room filled with information, the complete history of its kind, their purpose, their abilities, and their limits. It was giving them everything they needed to help others understand. "We can stop a war before it begins," Jisoo said, gathering the data. "We just need to help people see the truth." As they hurried to prepare for the meeting, Jin realized something important. The most dangerous creature they had found wasn't dangerous at all. It was exactly what humanity needed: a teacher, a helper, and maybe a friend. The world's leaders gathered in a large meeting room at the United Nations building in New York. Screens on the walls showed military leaders and scientists from different countries. Everyone looked worried, and many were arguing. Commander Taiwan Lee stood at the front of the room, pointing to pictures of the creatures on the main screen. "These beings have taken control of our most important systems," he said firmly. "We must act now, before it's too late." Lieutenant He-Jin Kim and Dr. Jisoo Park sat quietly, waiting their turn to speak. They had brought all their research about Shift and its kind. They knew they had to make everyone understand before something terrible happened. "Some of our scientists have found a way to destroy these creatures," Taiwan continued. "We can use special energy pulses too." Suddenly, every light in the building went dark. The screens turned off. Even phones stopped working. The room fell into complete silence. "What's happening?" someone asked in the darkness. A soft blue glow filled the room. Shift appeared on the main table, its scales shining with gentle light. More creatures appeared at different points around the room, each glowing softly. "This is what we were afraid of." Taiwan reached for his weapon, but found it wouldn't work. "Wait," He-Jin said, standing up. "They're not attacking. They're showing us something." The creatures began to create a large hologram in the center of the room. It showed Earth, and then zoomed out to show the galaxy. Millions of points of light appeared, each representing a civilization that the creatures had helped. "They've done this before," Jisoo explained to the quiet room. "They're teachers, created by an ancient civilization. They help young civilizations grow safely. They've never harmed anyone." "Then why did they take control of our systems?" a general asked angrily. The hologram changed to show Earth's power plants, factories, and cities. It showed how the creatures had been fixing problems, making things work better, preventing accidents before they could happen. "They didn't take control," He-Jin said. "They've been protecting us, helping us, and now they're showing us that they could hurt us if they wanted to. But they choose not to." The lights came back on slowly. Phones started working again. Everything returned to normal. But now everyone understood the creature's power. "If they wanted to harm us, they could have done it at any time," Jisoo added. "Instead, they've only helped. They want to be our partners, not our rulers." The room was quiet as people thought about this. The creatures remained where they were, glowing softly, waiting. Finally, one of the world leaders stood up. "We need to vote," she said. "Do we try to fight these beings, knowing we might lose everything? Or do we accept their help, knowing they could have destroyed us but chose to help instead?" He-Jin looked at Shift, who had moved closer to him. The creature's colors showed calm and patience. It would accept whatever humans decided, but He-Jin knew this decision would change their world forever. The room filled with quiet talks as leaders discussed their choice. The future of humanity would depend on what they decided next. 1 year had passed since the world leaders made their decision. The morning sun shone through the windows of the new Global Cooperation Center, where Lieutenant He-Jin Kim watched humans and creatures working together. The main hall was filled with activity. Scientists worked at advanced computers while creatures helped them solve complex problems. Dr. Jisoo Park stood at a large screen, explaining to a group of students how the creatures had helped humans build better spacecraft. "With their help, we've already sent 3 ships to explore distant planets," she said, pointing to a map of space. "What once took us years now takes only months." He-Jin smiled as he saw Shift moving between the workstations. The creature that had started everything now led the teaching program for new human-creature partnerships. Its scales shimmered with happy colors as it helped young scientists learn. Dr. Yoon Hee-choi, who now led the Joint Council of Humans and Creatures, called everyone to the main meeting room. "Today marks 1 year since we chose to work together," she said, looking around the room at both humans and creatures. "Let's review what we've achieved." The screens lit up with images from around the world. They showed cleaner cities where old polluting factories had been fixed, hospitals with new healing technology that saved more lives, schools where children learned alongside small, friendly creatures who taught them about science and space. "Our world has changed," Dr. Choi continued, "but we haven't lost who we are." The creatures didn't take over. They helped us become better versions of ourselves. Commander Taiwan Li, who had once wanted to fight the creatures, now stood up to speak. I was wrong about them, he admitted. They've shown us that real power isn't about control or fear. It's about helping others grow. He Jin walked to the window and looked out at the city. The old power plants that once made dark smoke now glowed with clean blue energy. Flying vehicles moved smoothly between buildings, guided by systems that humans and creatures had built together. We're ready for the next step, Jisoo announced to the room. The creatures have invited us to join the galactic community. There are other civilizations out there, waiting to meet us. Shift moved to the center of the room and created a beautiful hologram. It showed hundreds of worlds where other beings lived, all of them helped by creatures like Shift. Earth would no longer be alone in the universe. Some people still ask me if we made the right choice, He Jin said to the group. They wonder if we should have trusted the most powerful beings we've ever met. He paused and looked at Shift. But I think we made the perfect choice. We didn't just find dangerous creatures and bring them home. We found teachers, friends, and partners who showed us a better way forward. The room filled with agreement from both humans and creatures. Together, they had proven that trust and cooperation were stronger than fear. Earth had taken its first steps into a larger universe, not through war or conquest, but through friendship and understanding. As the meeting ended, He Jin watched Shift creating colorful patterns in the air for a group of children. The creature that many had once feared was now helping humanity's youngest generation dream of the stars. It was proof that sometimes the most dangerous thing you could find might turn out to be exactly what you needed all along.